Yes, good morning and welcome. Time now to take a look at the headlines this morning, and we're privileged to have in studio on my immediate left, Jonathan Mweke, Deputy Governor Nairobi. Next to him we have Ukur Yatani, the Governor for Marsabit County. Good morning. And of course Yusuf Hassan, MP for Kamukunji. It's a pleasure to have you on the panel this morning. Now, a quick look at the headlines. Kalonzo speaks on NASA exit claims. That's what's headlining on the Standard. And on the Daily Nation, NASA leaders fight to calm split fears. Now, this is the biggest political story coming from the weekend. Of course, NASA and the talks of unity, of course, claims that Raila Odinga, who is on a tour of the U.S., is returning home. Of course, suggestions were that he has cut short his trip just to return to firefight, but he denies that and says his trip was actually done. It was time to come back home. We'll have Bwana telling us more about the NASA politics. We also do understand that Asmat Kamama is to be replaced from Parliament's National Security Committee. We're looking at that as well. Jubilee Nairobi politics. Yesterday, quite a lot happened, and if at all you watched the interview on Citizen TV on Sunday Live with Hussein Mohammed, he hosted the Senator for Nairobi, Mike Sonko, and that was a very interesting interview. Earlier yesterday, we had an exclusive interview with the Senator, and he says that he has ruled out consensus with Peter Kenneth in terms of coming up with a Jubilee Party nominee for the race of governor. We also would like to get Bwana Ukur Yatani's thoughts about his move to become from ODM, and he's the latest governor to actually do that. He did that last week, leading a group of leaders from Marsabit County to declare support for President Uhuru Kenyatta. He becomes the third governor to do that after governors Hussein Dado of Tana River, Salim Vuri of Kwale, and Ken Lusaka of Bungoma. Yes, let's start off with something else. Joho's wars. Now, less than a week after President Uhuru Kenyatta said he will teach Governor for Mombasa a lesson, we see now banks, KRA going after the governor. Of course, KRA has demanded for bank statements from 2011, from as far back as 2011, for bank accounts that the governor has been operating. And is it a case of the governor burning his fingers by seeming to take on the president directly?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any fingers to be burnt. You know, we're in the opposition, and the role of the opposition everywhere in the world is to put the government on check. And I think Joho has just been playing politics as that, putting the government on check. So when the president comes in and says that Joho has gotten 40-60 billion shillings since devolution, and Joho says no, it's only 20. I mean, how is that burning fingers? When the president comes and says that we have done this project as a Jubilee project, while Jubilee has been in power for 3 years, the project was started in 2010, 7 years ago, and completed by a previous government and had nothing to do with this Jubilee government. Is that taking on the president? I don't think so. So I think we need to practice the politics now of fact, politics of ideology, and politics that is mature and not dictatorial politics. Because if there was anything wrong, I mean, I don't know the issues between Joho's accounts and KRA and so on and so forth, but if there was something wrong with Joho's accounts since 2011, KRA should have gone for them in 2011, because we file our taxes every year. Why is KRA going for the bank statements six years later?
Yes.
So I smell a rat.
But of course it will be seen in direct connection to what happened in Mombasa last week with the president seeming to respond directly to the governor, and the president was not happy, and his choice of words was something that we'll all remember. So clearly, because the story we're talking about is on page 7 of the Standard, and also on page 5 of the Daily Nation. On the Standard, KRA 6 Joho's banking details. On page 5, Joho reveals why he fell out with Uhuru. Joho claims that the president wanted Waitiki's quarters to pay for title deeds because they didn't vote for him. That's his claim with regard to the fallout between him and President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, in the past 2-3 weeks or so, we've seen the president coming out with a totally different temperament. Yes, And when the president gets angry, things do happen. He got angry, and we saw what happened to the doctor's strike. It quickly faded away, and within no time it had ended. Now we see him getting angry at one governor, and within no time things do happen. The headlines do say this. Are we wrong in connecting those two incidences? That this, whatever is happening to Governor Joho right now, is directly connected to what the president said last week?
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and it's really a great privilege to be here. Well, regarding the issues you have raised, and the problem is the timing. There could be some issues which ought to have been managed procedurally according to the law, but the timing of the president comment on the same, and then the other security agencies moving in, or the other enforcement agencies, or the carrier or otherwise, I don't really the timing is right. It shouldn't happen like this. There should be a better way of dealing with situations, depending on, and everybody is innocent until there is substantial evidence to that effect. Really, the movement of KRA against the governor, I think the timing is wrong.
The timing is wrong.
Is wrong.
Bwana Yusuf Hassan, of course, the president was categorical that he will teach Joho a lesson. Is this the lesson that we see?
Well, let me say that if a national institution like Kenya Revenue Authority wants to investigate and inquire into the details of any Kenyan citizen, they are entitled to it. You may read something into it politically, but as a matter of fact, if, for example, he or someone who is in the opposition is found to be on the wrong side of the law, does it mean that the police should not go after them or not investigate them because they simply happen to be in the opposition? So I think we should not read too much into the Kenya Revenue Authority, because if Joho's documents and accounts and payments are in order, then he has nothing to fear. So I don't see why we would be blowing this out of proportion, because if he has nothing, he has not done anything wrong, and he has paid his taxes and has done all the papers normally, then what is the problem? Inquiries are done all the time by different government departments on citizens of this country. But why would he have to be an exception?
Where does it leave our governors or people in such kind of responsibility at this time? Because now, do you feel scared that if at all you rose up against the president right now, you'd have to pay for the consequences almost immediately?
No, I don't.
I think that is already a very loaded question, in the sense that you've already taken sides to blame portion, to say that in fact
it is a matter of perception, because that's what is being seen.
But as a journalist, you should be balanced in your questioning as well, to say that the president has done this.
Well, the president is on record as saying he will teach Joho a lesson, and that's hence the question is this the lesson?
That is a speculation.
How do you see this? Do you see it as a direct result of the president's threat?
Just to answer my colleague, Honorable Yusuf Hassan, I'm wondering if it's coincidence or maybe it's a pattern, because a year ago the president went and disagreed with the governor of Mombasa when he didn't invite him to his function, or didn't have the courtesy to say, hey, I'm in your county. The governor spoke up about it, and then he had his businesses closed. Then a few months ago, the president went again to Mombasa, and when Joho questioned a project, he had his security withdrawn. And then now he blocks the governor of Mombasa from going to a public function, and the president makes an announcement that will teach him a lesson.
Let me correct
and
that.
then now Kerry is on his bank account. So is it coincidence or a pattern?
The president had an event in which he did not invite the governor of that particular region, and the president is entitled to do his own activities. The story we had at that time, and I was in Mombasa, was that the governor was going to come and disrupt and make a stand on the statement that the president made the previous day, and the message was passed to the governor to say that he wasn't invited. So to say that in fact he was blocked from an event is not the truth. It does not it does not explain what has happened. Secondly, the last time the governor was on the same platform with the president, he did not show the etiquette the decorum and the respect that is due to the President of the Republic of Kenya. You may disagree, you may be in the opposition and disagree with the leader of the country, but after all, President Uhuru Kenyatta is the elected president of this country, and he is entitled to be respected when he visits, particularly when you are hosting him in your own county. There should be some at least some semblance of recognition that you're hosting your president, and he is not an equal that you can attack and abuse publicly on television.
Indeed, the presidency should be respected, but when I'm working here, has painted a picture of a pattern that seems to be shaping up, and because you questioned my
perception.
No, I want to. Is it purely
what are you saying?
Is it purely coincident that there seems to be a pattern forming, that every time Joho disagrees with the president, there's something directly happening?
There's absolutely no evidence at all, because to be investigated by the Kenya Revenue Authority or the Anti-Corruption Commission.
When it happens every time you disagree with the president?
But are you suggesting that he should not be investigated by police or Anti-Corruption
I'm not suggesting that.
No, are you saying the Kenya Revenue Authority should not do its job? Is that what you're suggesting here?
My question is simple.
If there was a query.
My question is simple.
Why
is it purely coincidental?
And then secondly, why does Governor Joho has to worry if he has not done anything wrong?
Whatever KRA is doing investigating is fine, and whatever we find, it's up to them. My question is it purely coincidental that there seems to be a pattern that every time Joho seems to be in a disagreement with the president, something happens to him or his businesses? Is it coincidental? If it is, and that's what you're saying, that's fine.
But you're already setting the agenda to suggest that, in fact,
these are the headlines.
Absolutely no headlines. What I'm saying is that the Kenya Revenue Authority, like any other body, has the right to investigate even myself.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
Yes.
Do you think it's purely coincidental that these things seem to happen?
I think, as I indicated earlier, the timing is not right. It is all about timing. There could be some issues with his account. There could be issues with his business. But coming immediately after the president's pronouncement, really it should have happened the other way.
Yes.
It should have actually set its own stage, and the system looks at his account at the right time. But now coming immediately after the president, it really is now perceived that the president might have directed. Well, might not be really the case. It
is about perception, and as the headlines read, that is what the members of the public, including our viewers, perceive. Whether it's true or not, it could be purely coincidental. Yes, it could be purely coincidental.
You see also...
Well, if you want to push that line, it's up to you. That is citizen television.
No, that's an unfair statement. That's a very unfair statement.
You know, we are trying to move up into the community of nations where we are respected, where we do the right thing, where we follow the law. If you look at a real democracy, like the United States, when the current President Trump was campaigning, he did nothing but abuse and insult and disrespect the sitting president, President Obama. But you never saw his businesses closed, you never saw his security withdrawn and everything, and that's what a democracy should be about. As long as you're following the law, you should be allowed to agree to disagree. But every time you disagree and the state comes after you, it stifles democracy, it stifles development, it stifles progress, and it takes you backwards. So we should discourage actually that kind of behavior, so that leaders like myself or any other leaders can really go out and speak my mind and speak our mind, and let our followers know the way forward without feeling scared.
And of course, what we do here on this news review team is simply look at the headlines. We do not create the headlines, and so Bwana Yusuf Hassan, you will forgive us for looking at the headlines, because that's what we will do, and we'll strive to do so every time we have this news review panel. The other headline we want to look at is about NASA, and we'll come to the Nairobi politics because it's also another big headline. And yesterday there was a rally in Kitengela, and for the first time, Bwana Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka declared that he's not leaving NASA, regardless of who is picked as the coalition's flag bearer. Now this comes after claims that he looks set he looks to be preparing to bolt out of this formation. This simply because he presented his nomination papers to the party, Wiper, and coming in the wake of a lot of disagreements. Now they say that tomorrow there will be a make-or-break meeting. And that's why Raila Odinga is coming back from the United States for this meeting to decide what happens to NASA. Is this the truth? Because on one hand, Kalonzo Musyoka says there's no such meeting, but we do know that Raila Odinga is coming back home.
Yeah, first I'd like to correct you, Fred. It's not for the first time that Mheshimiwa Kalonzo has said NASA is going to stay together. He's going to stay in NASA no matter what. He's been saying it probably for 100 times now. So I'm not sure why you said it was the first time. I think in the last 2 weeks or so there's been a very serious propaganda war against the Wiper party leader. To me, it really seems like it's a spirited fight to show him or paint him as dishonest and make the other principals not trust him. And the more it doesn't work, the more it's heightened up. And you know, I can only summarize it in one way. The 33 strategies of war, one of the strategies is if you're not a target, then you're not doing something right. So I guess Kalonzo is doing something so right that people are just targeting him all the time. But I can tell you, I mean, Wiper, I can tell you there is no even thought of Wiper leaving NASA. Indeed, Wiper is a founder member of CORD and now of NASA, and our party leader is strong in the coalition.
We need, when Yusuf Hassan also accused the media of bias. And the kind of headlines that have been there with regard to this particular issue.
I don't think it's the media. I think it's certain bloggers that are on a payroll of who knows, that have been paid to set a narrative that Kalonzo is going to leave NASA and go on his own, just to create distrust. It's the good old strategy of divide and rule. But on this case, it's not going to work. What I disagree with the media is that Raila is coming back to firefight. You don't firefight, Fred, when there's no fire.
Oh, are you sure there's no fire? I thought you were only recently in ODM, and I know now you've shifted allegiances, but you were in ODM long enough to know and to understand the goings on. They say Kalonzo Musyoka has been described in some quarters as probably the weakest link in NASA. Some have said that he looks set to bolt out. When I said for the first time he's declared he's not leaving, it's because up until yesterday he was saying that he has, and the rhetoric was that he has to be on the ticket, what come may, that he has to. Yesterday, for the first time, he said he will support Raila, he will support Utangula, he will support Mudavadi, whoever is picked, and that's something different. But from your understanding, Bonatani, do you think there's a problem? Is it the media? Because the media is coming under under fire this morning from my panelists, but is that what you think is happening?
Foremost, in the minds of the Kenyans are pregnant with expectations. There's a lot of anxiety about what's really happening in NASA, and people want a declaration that so and so will be the flag bearer. So that anxiety gives room for a lot of speculation, and any move any leader takes, including taking nomination papers with the party headquarters, it is bound to create that anxiety in people. And say where there is smoke, there is possibly there's fire. And you keep denying that it's not happening. And why should Kenyans or people continue to pester and say, there's possibility of a fallout, there's a possibility so-and-so is working out, what is it that maybe people... So it gives a lot of room for expectation, speculation. Well, having said that, I think the timing also. In the minds of Kenyans, this ought to have happened. This matter ought to have rested. We are less than 4 months. We are about 4 months to election, and yet NASA does not have a flag bearer. So there's too much anxiety and fear of a fallout in case it does not happen. In case one is not picked. Maybe I think that's the reason.
Yes, but Yusuf Hassan, do you see the fire that Mweke says does not exist?
Absolutely. But let me just make a clarification, since you have accused me of criticizing the media. I fully support the freedom of the media I have absolutely no problem in the reports that are in the paper. What I took an issue with is the perception line that you had pushed very hard, repeatedly in a number of questions, that there was a perception disregarding the truth that exists. Now, coming to the issue of NASA, or as some of our leaders call it, NASWA, or NUSU, there is really a serious concern that things are not going very well there. Not in Jubilee, but within the supporters of the opposition. We're having a major opposition, the three major groups haggling over the leadership of who is going to represent them in the next presidential election. And their supporters are jittery. Everybody is very concerned about the direction they're taking. And it is very, very clear that Honorable Kalonzo has already exited with 1 foot out. Whatever might be said in denying it is purely a public relation exercise. The Kenya public is not deaf, it's not blind, it can see what is happening. And as the governor had said, we're now some few months from a general election, and they haven't put their act together. People are leaving this sinking ship. Governor Yatani was the last one, the governor of Tana River was another one, and I think if the opposition leadership is not seeing this as a crisis, then there's something seriously wrong with their heads.
1 foot out, that's how he describes Bwana Kalonzo Musyoka's position in NASA currently.
You know, sometimes you can have eyes but you choose not to see, or ears and you choose not to hear. And I think that's what my friend in Jubilee has chosen to do. Because this talk has been there for how many months now? Actually, I think probably close to a year. But the more the talk comes out that Kalonzo is leaving NASA, the stronger he gets in NASA. Before he was leaving CORD, Then everybody was shocked when he was in the meeting a few months ago that he signed the coalition agreement for.
But let me just ask a question here to my good friend.
And you're still saying leaving?
My good friend Mweke. If all is well with the opposition, why, for heaven's sake, have they not reached a decision? If Kalonzo is willing to have Raila as the leader, as Wetangula or Mudavadi, why don't they put their act together and move on into the leader? The reason is they are not able to agree on one.
You asked the question.
No, but I'm just saying that I know the reason why they are so fearful of moving to the next step is the consequences of it.
Is that the answer to that question?
Yes, I can answer that. Yes. And maybe the question will go right back to him. When are the presidential nominations? By the IBC calendar. Do you know?
But you don't have to wait until the last minute.
So what Yusuf Hassan is telling me is that for his child to be clever, they're going to do KCSE in April. KCSE is done in November, my friend. And somebody, it's like telling your son, if you don't do KCSE in April, then you are not ready for the exam. KCSE is done in November.
The deputy governor is completely out of touch with the reality.
But forcing us to set a president.
What about the assertions by leader of minority Francis Nyenzi last week that this MOU that was supposedly signed between ODM and Wiper Party back in 2013 has to be adhered to this time around? And that's a very senior member of that party. And he does not speak just out of nothing. When he says something, of course, he must be coming from somewhere.
Politicians have their own personal opinions. And if you find somebody saying one thing, and then you find the leader who he's talking about setting the record straight, who would you believe? Yeah. So you don't just believe some supporters or a senior member of our coalition.
You have some support,
or a senior member of our coalition. Of course he is.
Of your party in Parliament.
He is. But that's why there's a saying that you believe what you hear from the horse's mouth. The horse has spoken. Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka has said, not just in word, but in deed. When you said the other day that he's leaving CORD, Were you surprised that he went and he acted by signing the coalition agreement of NASA? So he's not just speaking in word.
So should we therefore say that issue of the MOU back in 2013 is a done deal? We no longer go back. We won't go back to it.
This is a new election. There's new negotiations going on. There's indeed a very competent, very high-level coalition committee of all the four parties, and that is what they're doing. Their job is to sit down and negotiate how NASA is going to be governed.
Okay.
Now, whether they are going to consider the past or they're going to look into the future, I don't know. I don't sit in that committee. That's their job. But what I can assure you is there's 12 people sitting down under the leadership of the four principals steering this ship. And that's why the ship has not sunk.
Okay. Time now for us to take a break. When we return, we discuss Nairobi politics. Senator Mike Sonko said there's no possibility of consensus and a Jubilee Party coming up with a candidate for the Nairobi governor's race. Will that stay? Is that what the party wants? That when Public First returns.